This is JNews from the land of Israel. We're giving you news and views from the promised land. We have one point that new information or old information which has been refurbished and also updated. It refers to Assad, President Assad of Syria. President Assad of Syria belongs to the Alawite minority, religious minority that were once pagans. They worshipped the moon, and since then they adopted a type of Islam. The most Muslims do not recognize them as real Muslims. At all events, at present they are fighting for their very existence. The rest of Syria wants to wipe them out. The Sunni majority wants to wipe them out. President Assad is backed only by his own sect, his own Alawite sect, that comprise 10 or maybe a little bit more than 10% of the population. Assad also receives some support from the Muslim population around Damascus. Part of this Muslim group may be descended from Samaritans. The Samaritans were a people who came from Mesopotamia when in about, according to conventional dating, from 730 to 720 BCE, the Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of Israel. They exiled all of its inhabitants. They took all of them away in stages. They brought in new people from outside, from Kutha, from different portions of Babylon, of Mesopotamia, and they brought them in and they settled them in Samaria, and henceforth these people are known as Samaritans. They were attacked by groups, by layers of lions. Whole groups of bands of lions would attack them. And incidentally, this is what the Bible tells us, but we also know from archaeological findings that such incidents did happen, and they were reported in other areas such as in Mesopotamia. At all events, due to these lions attacking the villages, the Samaritan villages, the king of Assyria was told that it was because the inhabitants did not know how to placate, how to worship the God of the land. So two priests from exiled Israelites were sent to teach the Samaritans how to worship God according to the Bible. And they did so, but the Samaritans took what they were taught and they amalgamated, they made a synthesis of it with what they already knew, with their own pagan traditions. They came up with a Samaritan type of religion. At some stage they reformed this religion and they came closer to Judaism, but then they retracted, they regressed, they went back. And they were not accepted as being Jewish by the sages, and they lived separately. At one stage there were a large number of them in the Middle East, also in Africa and in other parts of the world. Some say also in Europe. They numbered in their millions. And one of the places where they were very predominant at some stage was Damascus. They were the majority of the population of Damascus. Eventually they were forced to become Muslim, as was everyone else in that region, but nevertheless there may be some type of ethnicity, of ethnic difference between them and the rest of Syria, and that could explain why there's some support for Assad amongst that grouping. At all events, Assad is virtually alone. Russian experts say that the days of Assad are numbered. Sooner or later he's going to collapse. He doesn't see it that way. He believes, and so does all the members of his minority sect. They understand that they are fighting for their very existence, and if they lose, the Muslim majority is liable to slaughter and massacre them like they do to everyone else. So therefore they've set up their own little enclave in the northwest of Syria, where the majority of their sect is to be found, and they have more or less fortified themselves there, and they have large stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons that they will use against their adversaries if things go badly for them. And this weaponry has been upgraded by North Koreans and Iranians. So that is something to know about. Prime Minister Netanyahu, on the 29th of September, as we reported, he gave a speech to the General Assembly of the UN, And in this speech he said that there is no difference fundamentally between ISIS and Hamas, that they are both expressions of Islamic extremism, and they want to kill people to inspire terror in others and to assert their mastery, their religious mastery over all of the peoples of the earth. And they are danger not only to the Jewish people but to all of Western civilization. So on the 30th of September he met with Jewish leaders, and he added a few more points to what he had already said. And he says to them, he is quoted as saying, "Every time I come to the UN I try to tell the truth as it is." But here's a picture I didn't show in the UN yesterday. And he says that during the recent fighting in Gaza, right around the time that ISIS was doing its grisly deeds, Hamas executed dozens of Palestinians in order to instill terror and to impose fear and force the population of Gaza into submission. It's true that there are also some differences between Hamas and ISIS. For example, ISIS beheads people and Hamas puts a bullet in the back of their heads. But to the victims and the victims' family, the horror is the same. And he continues and says, "We are faced with a worldwide network of militant Islamist groups and regions. It's not that they have a common war room. They have war rooms against each other because all of them wish to dominate first the region in which they're in and ultimately the entire world. But they all share this fanatic ideology. They all have not only unbridled ambitions but also savage methods. And the more they have the capability to realise their ambitions, the more they'll unleash their pent-up aggression against our common civilizations." And he continues, "To defeat ISIS and leave Iran as a threshold nuclear power is to win the battle and lose the war. We have to stop ISIS, defeat ISIS. But we have to prevent Iran from getting the capability to produce nuclear weapons." Because as he was stressing, emphasizing, if Iran gets nuclear weapons, there's a very high probability that they will use them the first chance they get. Oil production, world oil production. The USA is headed to the top of the list. This is from a Saudi Arabian source. The economy of Saudi Arabia is dependent on petroleum exports. This accounts for 85% of export revenues in 2013. But the US liquefied petroleum is set to overhaul Saudi Arabia in September or October for the first time since 1991. So the USA is headed to become the world's leading petroleum leader. Russia is now in second place. Russia will be in the third place, and Saudi Arabia in the second place. The USA is set to become the world's leading producer of petroleum. Saudi Arabia will be second, and Russia will be third. The Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.